welcome to the first GATENet Fireside Chat. I'm Mark Merriam-Play, your GATENet CEO, and I'm extremely excited today to finally announce our strategic partnership with Fireblocks. Yes, you've heard it right. GATENet will be integrating with the institutional-grade wallet infrastructure from Fireblocks as we look to take GATENet V1 live in Q2 2023, focusing on primary issuance of equities and secondary trading, along with crypto and various other projects to be rolled out in 2023. Earlier today, we caught up with Stephen Richardson, Head of Financial Markets at Fireblocks, and our very own Nick Cowan, CEO of the GSX Group, to talk through the partnership and what Fireblocks and GATENet will be doing over the coming years. So without further ado, let's get on to the Fireside Chat. So over to you, Stephen Richardson.
Yeah, it's great to be here and appreciate you for having me on. We're really excited about the partnership with GATENet and really are excited to talk about what this partnership will do moving forward.
And then we've got Nick Cowan as well. Nick, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, hopefully some of you know him already, but I'm the CEO of the GSX Group and the founder as well. And then we set up a year or two ago, we set up GATENet as one of our subsidiaries, and obviously we've hired Mark this year to come in. He's younger, smarter, and better looking than me. So Mark has basically come in to run GATENet, and he's overseeing the entire technology development, but also obviously the core key partnerships and the marketing strategy of GATENet to basically deliver the Digital FMI over the next couple of years. So it's we've got a great team.
But first, let's get into this partnership, right? It's one of the first big ones that we've announced for GATENet. We've been kind of plugging away the last 3 years. I've come on board this year, but really proud that we could finally announce. It's been a little while in the works. We've been working in the background with Fireblocks for the last 3 months, but it's great to really initiate this partnership. So just opening up the floor to you guys, and let's talk about what we can do in the future, GATENet and Fireblocks.
Yeah, I think should I kick off and then maybe just tee it up for Stephen. I think look, obviously as you all know, the complexity of delivering a securities T-instance settlement solution is what would we say non-trivial. It's highly complex, and part of our design model has been to take this 10-year view that we believe that there is still latent friction in the financial markets infrastructure settlement process. And part of our vision going back 3-4 years was to look at ways that we could ultimately try to achieve a number of things, drive through a lower cost of the life cycle of a transaction. That's really what part of the key delivery. Steve and I were just talking before we press record. We're talking about CCPs and the posting of capital by brokers who have to act as principals on behalf of their clients, which just seems completely mad. And that's where it's been. And you have to post capital with CCPs. There's a lot of capital inefficiency that potentially could be used, particularly in where we are now in this credit tightening cycle. Things are going to be pretty tough potentially. So capital is going to be key. And also, the fact that historically infrastructure tends to be mono-geography. There's been very little interoperability. Somebody once said it's a bit like and I live in Gibraltar, so we're near Spain. It's like a Spanish and a Portuguese person speaking. They can kind of maybe get some of it, but they don't get all of it. And it's a bit like that with financial markets infrastructure. If you think about Euroclear and DTCC and Clearstream, etc., they kind of don't really talk to each other. But then you have it's just from our perspective, pretty inefficient. And so interoperability, trying to lower the cost of capital to issuers, trying to open up global liquidity pools to issuers, trying to open up for investors, and all the stuff which we talked about over the last couple of years in our white paper. So that is, if you like, the evolution that we see happening over the next decade. You're seeing that now starting to really come on stream with particularly asset management industry, starting to take stakes and interest, BlackRock, Coinbase, Aberdeen, Archax, etc. And part of the challenge that you've got with all types of new technology is confidence. And part of that confidence is getting into bed with extremely strong partners who have something that is incredibly powerful, that makes absolutely no sense in us trying to reinvent the wheel. And we could have built our own matching engine, our own central securities depository technology, our own surveillance technology, our own wallet infrastructure. But why do that when somebody else has been doing it for longer and actually they've got something awesome? So that's when Mark first started talking about Fireblocks, we could see a real solution there, because it wasn't just, okay, institutional security, awesome technology, custody solutions. It was also getting access to a broader network of partners. And that's what we see really exciting, because Fireblocks has, Stephen will give you the numbers, but whatever it is, X hundred or thousands of institutional core partners. For us, that's incredibly appealing. So confidence equals security equals strength of partners. So for us, it was a bit like falling off a log, getting into bed with Fireblocks. It's just, for us, just an incredible piece of our core technology that will enable us to get to the promised land soon.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we look at it in the exact same way, but from the inverse of a technology perspective. There's a lot of work that goes into building up FMI infrastructure. There's a lot of expertise that's needed. There's a lot of connectivity that needs to be built to do that. And there's a lot of challenges that, from my seat looking at financial markets, the space has, whether that's from the capital inefficiency, as you mentioned, the settlement finality from, let's say, the reconciliation that needs to be done on an often going basis, and kind of this idea that the blockchain can become this point of record as far as settlement is concerned, and enabling real DVP settlement, I think is something that we think is, an absolute novel idea, and will be really growing over a period of time. We're in the early innings, I think, of where this is, and there are leading institutions like yourselves that are thinking about what does the future of this space look like, and how do we build, let's say, a ecosystem that allows folks to really not only first innovate, but then to grow and expand the use cases with folks like ourselves, right? And that's where we find a lot of excitement in kind of this type of growth development, right? It is, how do we support that from a technological perspective? And we think to ourselves, we're not going to be the financial institution that sits behind this, but what we are going to do is think about the challenges and the problems that financial institutions have to operate in the digital asset space. The complexity of building wallet capabilities, supporting multiple different blockchains, ensuring the right blockchain nodes are up and running, building out the idea of the network. We have 1,400 plus customers. How does that get built, and how does the connectivity of that ecosystem evolve? And how do you continue to bring in new partners into that ecosystem to help the whole pie or the whole space grow, right? And so as a technology company, that's really where our focus is. And then we look for really strong use cases for us to then be partners, as basically people take our technology and then enable it to then build products and services. And so for us, that's a really exciting and dynamic place to be. And the use cases that have been outlined, not only within the white paper that you guys have developed, but what you guys are building from a capabilities perspective, and the future roadmap of how you can leverage blockchain technology to, in effect, change the operating model that exists in the central clearing space, I think will be a really unique thing to watch over a period of time. And so we're quite excited about that.
Actually, just to touch on something, I think you hit the nail on the head there, where we said we're really early in on the game. And I think a lot of people within the industry know this for digital securities or the issuance of equities, debt, ETFs. It's all starting, right? And whilst the crypto market has exploded, I think digital securities is just starting. It's just burning away. We've got the likes of other firms and competitors that are nimble and moving. But I think this is, I don't know if you agree, Stephen and Nick, this is kind of like a 2 to 5 year play where we'll start to really see small, medium-sized enterprises utilizing this capability, issuers coming on board, and being early on is, in my opinion, building in this period is the best way to do this. We're innovators. Spot on.
I think, look, what have we seen this year? In fact, what did we see last year and what have we seen this year? I think if you look at what we tried to do was to say, okay, there is a ton of innovation going on in the crypto market, right? So they have a fully funded model with T-instant settlement, effectively with bearer assets. Okay, that's really cool. And then secondly, they brought in a bunch of innovation, which was being able to use those assets to effectively create yield. Now, obviously, there have been some proverbial hit in the fan this year, as we know. That doesn't mean the technology was wrong. Just I think there are risk management issues which have been highlighted, right? So what do we think is going to happen? Okay, number one is we believe in all the things we just talked about, but we also believe that it should be a multi-chain solution with multi-product types in multi-jurisdictions. Okay, so that's a perfect world, right? And that's obviously our grand vision. And then we see this moving from where we are today, which is T+2, and we'll go through a number of cycles to get the T instance settling in the matching engine, as Stephen said, a point of trade with settlement finality, all that good stuff. What's going to happen as well, though, in our view, is that I think regulation is going to converge. You know, I was in 2018 saying the regulators are going to get all over crypto, and then the challenge for regulators, and this is the sort of the reverse logic, is when you put in a regulatory regime, you then have to regulate, right? So, and you have to protect consumers, right? And that's the real challenge because everyone's saying, you know, why isn't the FCA doing stuff about regulation? Why is the EU so slow to the table? Because it's a big ask, right? So, and this is, but we now see, especially with yourself, if these things happen this year, you're going to see regulation now accelerate. I mean, you saw tornado this week. Every week there's something new breaking out, right? Where the regulator's saying enough. So regulation is going to change. So actually, I think, you know, a number of technology innovations we will expect to see. It is about digital securities being able to settle more efficiently, but I also believe the reporting technology, which has been in place for securities for decades, reporting to regulators, you can triangulate, you know, did that trade happen at that time with these two market makers, etc. That's going to, in our view, that's going to apply to crypto as well. So there's a degree of future proofing that needs to happen because I think regulators are going to start imposing some of these controls. I think there's going to be new regulation applying to, whether you call it shadow banking or shadow lenders, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's going to be a whole new shift over the next 5 years. So again, using technology and perhaps some of the more traditional financial market and capital market logic and approach is what we see is going to happen. So I think we're at the beginning, in my view, of at least a 10-year cycle, right? That's how I see two parallel worlds moving side by side, but gradually converging over the next decade is how I see things. Because ultimately, nobody's saying my margins are exploding, my regulatory costs are going through the floor. It's always the reverse, right? Always the reverse. So the more efficient you can make businesses, and the more transparent you can make businesses, obviously with privacy overlays, I think the better the business is going to evolve, the more confidence and comfortable regulators will have with this new technology, which is incredibly exciting. But you're always going to have, whether it's misuse or just screw ups or just poor risk management, that's how you've got to break eggs to make an omelette. And I think this is a natural evolution, sadly, of what we have to go through to get to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd say, you know, from my perspective, I always say when I meet with regulators that don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? The technology and inherently of it, what it is, it's good. If you think about what the digital asset space has done, right? It's an ecosystem that's grown on its own, that's only recently been, you know, it's been replicating a lot of financial market infrastructure in a highly automated way and with certain levels of efficiency in a borderless fashion with ecosystems and groups that have built it kind of unilaterally, right? And I think what you're starting to see, right, is, you know, regulation in this space has happened much more quickly than, you know, one would have expected. I use the example of, you know, if you gave someone, you know, a 10-year-old access to the internet, they could get into absolutely great things and learn a lot. They could get into absolutely really poor things, right? And no one would say, throw the internet away, right? So when people always ask me questions around what's happening with this bear market, my argument has always been, you know, the underlying and the fundamentals of the technology will change the landscape of financial services. Now, it took regulators 20 plus years to really regulate the internet, GDPR being like the first real example of like internet regulation in a real way. If you think about it, what's happening in crypto, real adoption of digital assets, right, has only been, if you think about like the 2017-18 first set of bull runs that we really saw where that price spike. And within something like the 5 years, you've seen like the evolution of MiCA. You've seen stuff that's happened with BaFin and FINMA. You've seen the Singapore digital payments license. You've seen licensing and aspects in Gibraltar. I mean, you've seen it across like the landscape, right? And you see it now happening in the U.S. And so, you know, I think regulators are trying to balance like innovation and progress with like consumer safety and really what's necessarily there. And I think to your point, we're seeing regulators start to take an approach. Now, where the unique aspect of all of this is, and what's exciting about working with folks like yourselves, is that you sit at that intersection, right? And the really progressive CSDs and the really progressive FMIs, right, understand the difference between really taking this innovative lens and applying it to the inefficiencies in the market today, and being on the lookout about how regulation will impact financial services and this new technology. And that nexus, I think, is a critical one for enabling success in this space. So as tokenized securities come into play, what does that mean for settlements, right? How do we think about opening of markets for tokenized assets? How do we involve more currencies if we're going to see the proliferation of commercial bank money and stable coins and the ability for folks to be able to clear in with different currency types? Like, all of these things are happening across the board. You can look at what BaFin has done with this idea of the central depository, right? They've basically said anyone that's a custodian that's holding something like 700K in value can act as their own securities registry, right? Like, obviously centralized in some basis, but you can start to do what Deutsche Börse and those folks were doing, at a direct basis. So I think we're seeing, a real shift in the landscape, and the winners will be folks that are able to take this technology, adapt it, right, understand the implications of regulation on the scalability of this technology, and then apply it and make it easier for everyone else to use, right? And I think if I look at the vision of what you guys are doing, as a company, I think that holistically sits at the center of the approach that you guys are taking. And for us, at Fireblocks, that is an exciting, proof point to work with.
I'm smiling because if you'd have asked me 5 years, would BaFin be one of the leading innovative regulators globally? I probably would have spat my tea out. But that's the beauty of what's happening, right? I mean, BaFin are actually leading the way, which is amazing, right? Absolutely amazing, because they really are embracing this innovation. They see the opportunity, and they're being, I think, really smart about it.
And this is one of the good things about the partnerships, because Fireblocks get the whole on-chain CSD registry, settlement, and also regulatory reporting, which you just mentioned. With all this housed into GATENet, we've got partners and clients that'll come on board and just take this out of the box and they're good to go. But as well as we do, you can't build this overnight. It takes time. It's not proven technology, so we're putting the pieces together, agile delivering this, and this is like a 2 to 5 year play as we build this out. Parallel runs, doing CSD as well as the regular kind of trading activity through the engines, making sure it's all working, doing reconciliations. And then I think at the end of this 5 year kind of journey with Fireblocks as well, we will, although it's very ambitious, get to an on-chain CSD T-instant settlement system, and we take away, the inefficiencies that are happening in the market. Obviously, there are going to be counterparties that won't be happy with this, but this is the whole point of blockchain. It's opening up for the world. Whether it's in crypto or in the institutional space, what we're doing is we're leveling the playing field. So small, nimble players can come in, they can see a gap in the market, and they can take advantage of it. And this is what we've been doing for 3 years. And I know it's going to take another 5 years ultimately to get there. The good news is that, what you mentioned, we've already got clients. A couple are on in the NDA, but the ones we can, talk about is one in the US. They're building a tokenized digital securities exchange as well as a crypto exchange. We're providing the technology for them as well. It should be the likes of Apple, Tesla, that you'll see on their exchange, all powered by GATENet using Fireblocks wallet infrastructure. And we've got another client just kicking off in Hong Kong, where they've got a primary issuance platform. So they're looking to onboard a number of medium-sized enterprises that want to issue equity. So again, new use cases. But Nick, I know you've got a couple more that we're actually looking into to expand on this.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we've got a number of exchange partners, two of which Mark just mentioned, but we've got about 20 licenses in different stages of application right now for different exchange partners that want us to get them the license, deliver the technology, and then we'll basically look after the entire effectively post-trade environment. as well as providing the matching engine, all that good stuff with the Fireblocks wallet infrastructure. So exchange partners is, if you like, the first delivery, but then and that's for equities, but then immediately you can create new use cases and develop the technology to run in parallel. So there's a lot of noise about asset management embracing DLT. So ETFs and closed and open-ended funds will be our next product after equities. Rapidly behind it, we'll start development, or at least the analysis, Q4 this year, and start that next year. And then we'll move into debt, and also we've got REITs and fractionalized NFTs and all that good stuff. You just got to keep evolving and evolving and adding on products and also delivering crypto. And from there, use cases, spring up, don't they? And whether it's a private company wanting to be able to have its shareholders get access to price discovery and liquidity. Well, you can tokenize their shares, have a private board, and then that company can run themselves. A company wants to improve their client loyalty and brand recognition. They've got a reward scheme, but they don't do anything with it. There's a lot of talk at the moment. So why don't you replace a reward scheme with a utility token? That utility token, subject to legal and regulatory, could be converted into equity at any time, right? So that allows the company to convert a customer into a shareholder. We call it an investor. There's so many use cases that are extremely difficult to use with existing infrastructure, technology, and regulation, which actually, if you can digitize that process and make everything completely transparent and T-instant, etc., you can just start to really, really, really expand that use case. And that is, I think, what is so incredible about where we are right now. So, Mark, completely agree. But yeah, I think the next 5 years are going to be vital for this industry, and I think it's so good to work with Fireblocks, because I often say when I talk to technology companies, they're sort of like MiFID who, CSD what, CCP, what is that? What is CCP? And actually, when you're talking to a partner who's like, yeah, we totally understand. Obviously, Stephen's background, he was in investment banking as well. So you're talking to a partner that completely understands what we're trying to do. And that is half the challenge, isn't it? It's finding partners who say, here's the technology, what's the question? They're actually saying, we know where you're going. We are going in the same direction. We have obviously a lot of stuff that we are looking to build as well. And that for us is just incredible to be part of that wave and embed with somebody so strong.
One other key great partnership benefits, I think, with Fireblocks that we will experience is that we were stuck in terms of building out a bot to buy our native token Gate. So essentially Gate tokens are ERC20. Once we kick off and we have transaction fees coming through our partner exchanges, all powered by GATENet, a percentage will be retained for us to develop this. We're going to need a bit of money also to get to the on-chain CSD, but a percentage will go back to stakers that currently stake the Gate token on our governance platform, and then also a percentage will be going back to be burned. Now we're putting in a hybrid governance approach, so we'll do the proposals and the community will vote on it, and it's up to them in terms of the percentage splits. But what's great about Fireblocks is that we can now build, segments like this. We can build a bot with a Fireblocks partner, such as an exchange, and that can go and buy Gate on the market. As this USD comes in directly from our partner exchanges, because we're all using the Fireblocks infrastructure. So to me, it's a win-win. When we started this journey, we started talking about on-ramps, wallet infrastructure, institutional grade, all the good stuff that Fireblocks gives most of their clients. But actually, there's a lot more that we can do with Fireblocks. Stephen mentioned before, as time goes on, and there'll be use cases we can explore together, build a market and build, each other up. But we're actually finding, there's some great partners coming through, our relationship managers at Fireblocks, such as, building on a bot. So, I think this partnership is going to go strength to strength. I'm really excited to be working with Fireblocks. And that's just one use case for our Gate token, but it's glad to see it pumping through Fireblocks infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I think from at least again from our perspective, as a technology company, we focus on what are the additional use cases that our clients and our partners are looking to support, right? And I think that's we've been a very customer-centric company since the inception of the company. And I think that's led to a lot of our success in the space today. And the amount of just use cases that you get to see, right, helps us get a better understanding of what are the building blocks that need to be there to, enable success, right, and enable someone to build something seamlessly without requiring the heavy dev lift or a significantly large technology team or all those other components, right? And so, for us, as more and more of these use cases come across, from my perspective, the product side, I think we're able to better develop a product and technology application tools that let people innovate on top of the platform, right? And that's what we're really looking for, right? This idea that the platform as a base technology stack does a few things, right? It's highly secure, right? It's highly scalable. And it's made to be easy to use. So with things like a pretty strong set of APIs, at that point, right, the capabilities are then open for our partners to be able to use and then innovate on top of and create new workflows and products and cycles that help them be competitive in the market space. So, for us, it's exciting to hear that, we've started with use case number one. We're exploring the native token and the utilization of that. Obviously, as we think about broader staking infrastructure and what that means and the partners that we have in that space, that will become even more interesting. And who knows about the next, generation of potential products that come through GATENet. So again, we're really quite excited about this partnership and the ability to really work with a financial markets company that understands the potential application and utility of what's being done here, and will really drive us to push and think innovatively about what kind of products can be offered into the market.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time as well. It's much appreciated. But I think we'll ask you one more favor, right? So we're about to go live Q2 2023. Otherwise, Nick's probably going to sack me. But we'd love to invite you back when we're about to hit the button, go live with one of our key clients. It'll be great to have you back again once everything's running. Obviously, we'll be running through Fireblocks and have another chat then. I think everyone would have really appreciated you coming on board today, talking about the partnership and taking your time out. So much appreciated.
It's fantastic. Stephen, thank you. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.